Okay, well, we've got a really good question here, and I think you touched on a variety of topics. One, I'm not identifying who you are. In North Carolina, we say you all. So, you all, we've got a question here this morning about rosacea, about the facial breakout of rosacea, and it might be related to sugar and sugar intake. We've got a question about my inordinate pushing of Gatorade. Like, you know, Dr. Rose, I know you got stock in there. You make millions of dollars every time people drink a bottle of Gatorade. And then the elite drops, and I've had many videos on that. So I'd like to tell you, first of all, sometimes I think, because I'm, you know, kind of the surgeon in charge of this, that everyone would listen to what I say. And just like being a parent, you realize that's not the case. People kind of do what they want. So we have people not taking Gatorade for reasons that they think are good, and drinking the elite drops, which reasons they're good, and I'm okay with all of that. You know, as long as you've paid me the money, I don't care what you do. So if you want to drink elite drops and avoid Gatorade, I'm fine with that. You know, I mean, you paid a lot of money to do whatever you want. On the other hand, I kind of feel an obligation to tell you as much as I can and give you the best advice I can. So let me go through a couple of things. First of all, many people are worried about sugar post-op. Not just for the breakout of rosacea, but because of diabetes and a lifetime of medical background knowledge, knowing that just in general, sugar is bad for you. And particularly the sugar in Gatorade now is high fructose corn syrup. And so there's a whole bunch of things we could talk about fructose. So for a variety of reasons, it's okay to be anti-Gatorade for a variety of reasons, but right after surgery, things are different. Okay? So for example, I want you to imagine with me, I want you to have a imaginary travel with me now to Haiti. I want us to go down into the slums of Haiti and see the little children and the poverty-stricken people who are dying of cholera. Okay? Now, I want you to say what you just said, which is, I think we should not give this little child dying of cholera Gatorade because of the sugar. In that situation, it doesn't make sense. And let me give you a bit of background on cholera. Cholera kills because of a special kind of infectious agent called Vibrio cholera, which causes a massive diarrhea of basically the water in your body. And what they found is that diarrhea is the same as your sweat, it's the same pretty much as what's in your blood, which is a little bit of sugar, a little bit of salt, a little bit of potassium, and a bunch of water. And if you get cholera in the United States, they would admit you to a hospital, give you a sterile IV, a sterile tubing, and quarts of sterile water intravenously until you got better. But when you and I are standing in our thought experiment in the slums of Haiti with a child dying of cholera there's no hospital, there's no sterile IV, there's no sterile fluid to give them, and in that case, that baby, that child, that person can die. What we've discovered, maybe the biggest discovery health-wise in this century in the world for lives saved, is we can save that person's life by giving them Gatorade. Okay? Now, does the average obese American need Gatorade? Well, no, probably not. But in that case, in that special case of that child dying of cholera, if we give them something called oral rehydration solution, or abbreviated ORS, they found the right mix of sodium, the right mix of potassium, the right mix of sugar that will save that baby's life. And that mix, roughly, is Gatorade. Okay? Now, for you and I, as average Americans, do I need Gatorade today? No. No. That baby, life and death. For my patients post-op, Gatorade. Now, you don't have to if you don't want to. I won't be angry at you. But you, after my surgery, are going to have what we call massive diuresis. Massive diuresis. Now, massive diuresis translated from the medical jingo to what you and I can understand means you pee your brains out. So pre-op, obese people inappropriately retain salt and water, and they get edema and swelling, joint pains, high blood pressure, shortness of breath, headaches, sinus problems, rosacea, and other things, diabetes, all kinds of problems. And within hours of my surgery, most of those hormonal changes are reversed massively, and you begin to pee like crazy. In fact, if you talk to my patients, many people pee so much, they become dehydrated. They become the equivalent of that baby dying of cholera. And in those patients, Gatorade is the right choice. Okay? Also, when you add up grams of sugar per day, in my patients post-op, if we ask our patients who've been through this, they don't eat that much. So that there is some sugar in Gatorade. If you're an average American eating a breakfast of bacon and eggs and orange juice, and then have a snack of a Snickers bar at 10 o'clock, and at lunch you have ribs and coleslaw, and then at 2:30 you have another big oatmeal cookie, and then at dinner you have a steak and ice cream and a chocolate cake, that person doesn't need Gatorade. And probably that extra sugar is bad for them. But my patient post-op is not that patient. Instead, go back with me to Haiti. My patient's right after surgery, she hasn't had any steak or eggs this week, have you? You didn't have any steak or eggs right after your surgery, did you? Okay. And you had terrible diabetes after surgery, right? And his sister is a nurse. She was on the ceiling. I was giving him sugar. She was tense about that in a nice way. And what we say is, think of that cholera victim. That cholera victim may not need Gatorade every day, all day. And I don't think you should necessarily live on Gatorade after the surgery forever. But in the first week, it's life and death. And thinking of yourself as the same person who was pre-op is completely incorrect, because the surgery is so powerful, so transformative, that you're going to be more like the cholera victim than you are the old you. Your estrogen level is going to decline. His diabetes was cured. His diabetes was cured. His diabetes was cured. Where can you go today and get a cure of diabetes? This surgery is very radical. So your question makes perfect sense. It's not a bad question, but you have to understand just how transformative, how powerful the MGB is. And in my opinion, Gatorade after the surgery makes a lot of sense, and it's foolhardy to say, I'm going to have the elite drops to avoid the sugar, blah, 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 because you haven't lived through an MGB. And an MGB changes everything. Okay, now, is it okay to have elite drops? People like them, and elite drops are fine. How much did you pay for your bottle?
$5.
$5, so that's good. The equivalent elite drops, you could have elite drops, or you could eat a cracker and have a glass of water. So if you want to pay $5 for a cracker, that's okay with me. I have this problem at my house, too many $20 bills. You know, they're stacked in closets, they're under the bed, you know, wherever you go, you can't get away from $20 bills. You know, you have that problem? Yeah. So if you need to spend extra money on stuff and you want to buy elite drops, I have nothing opposed to it. But there's nothing special in there. You could have one bite of the crackers that Trish was... Hold up your crackers there. That's about $20 worth of elite drops. So if you want that as your technique of getting it, there's a little bit of sodium in there, there's a little potassium, there's actually a little bit of starch in there too, so it's actually better than the elite drops. Now, if you're an average obese American, is an elite drop a better choice than Gatorade? Maybe, but that's not you afterwards. And again, if you feel driven to spend money, I haven't spent money so far this morning. I feel kind of a drive to spend money. Remember, you can always call me.
Usually kids have sugar. These two, they have sodium in them. You didn't have to eat them. You just put them in your mouth, suck the salt out.
So elite drops are fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But again, suck on a pretzel. And save that $5 and send it to the little child who's starving to death Yeah, is it okay to get your staples out? So again, I'm not opposed to it. To me, it's a... Yes?
I had a question before you left. How do you sleep?
I've been sleeping pretty well. And that's just
Love a
because
lot of it.
And it actually helps the more